The King's Avatar, Chapter 1572 Like a Dream. Audio source, WuXiaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1572, Like a Dream. Translator, Noam Yummy. Editor, Noam Yummy. The shadow created by the overtowering Death Knight covered the entirety of Dark Thunder. The Death Knight lifted his enormous rusty sword and swung downwards. Dodge. Lin Jingyan's only choice was to dodge. The Death Knight wasn't a goblin. If that strike hit, it wouldn't be just a small impact, it would likely knock him down. Devil World Flower, Goblin, Death Knight. The three summons by themselves weren't enough of a threat to make Lin Jingyan helpless, but completely suppressing An Wen Yi's little cold hands under these circumstances was unlikely. Lin Jingyan would probably be able to interrupt longer casts, but clerics had access to 3 instant cast heals: Small, Great, and Holy Cure. Knowing that Lord Grimm would need to be healed after using life-risking strike, An Wen Yi had intentionally saved these skills for him. Happy had stabilized the situation. Everyone realized this point, and the one who helped Happy stabilize it was Luo Ji. This inexperienced rookie had shined brightly in both team competitions against Tyranny. Last time, it had been through his outrageous dismantle style. And this time, he had done it by putting to use one of the most fundamental characteristics of a summoner. Luo Ji's hands were shaking. He could sense his hurried breathing. More than 30 minutes had passed since the start of the match, and he was still nervous. However, his thoughts were exceptionally clear. His hands may be trembling uncontrollably, but he did what he had to do bit by bit. He didn't even know himself how much of an impact his actions would have on the battle, but he kept telling himself that he need to succeed. He need to do the only thing that he could do, not make any mistakes. Everything he did turned into a reality, and it showed. He didn't overlook a single detail. He was playing perfectly. It wasn't easy for him to control 6 summons split between 2 different areas, but fortunately, his summons didn't need to fight too precisely. If this continued, Happy would win. That was what the pro player chat group thought. Luo Ji had no one on him. He had complete freedom in the battlefield. For Tyranny, who need to focus on Lord Grimm, Luo Ji had become their greatest hindrance. Was Tyranny going to lose because of this rookie? Luo Ji had been the decisive factor in both the team competitions that he had participated in. Lose? No, not yet. Han Wenqing and his Desert Dust had arrived. For a striker, he had initially been relatively far away from the battle, but he had finally returned. He had no one on him either. Didn't that mean he could go directly for Lord Grimm? Or he could fend off Dancing Rain and the summons to let Dazzling 100 Blossoms finish off Lord Grimm. Or he could help Dark Thunder shut down Little Cold Hands. Han Wenqing had several options, but at this moment, Zhang Jiali suddenly noticed Luo Ji casting something. It wasn't a summon, but a spell. What was it? For a moment, Zhang Jiali couldn't think of anything. However, his many years of experience was giving him feeling of danger. He could sense that if he didn't interrupt Concealed Light, things might truly be over for Tyranny. Bang bang bang. Ignoring everything else around him, Dazzling 100 Blossoms fired 3 shots at Concealed Light. The Frost Wolf immediately pounced on him and knocked him to the ground. It'll reach. Zhang Jiali was still looking towards Concealed Light. He saw Concealed Light staff glowing with magic, but it wasn't yet complete. It was a spell with a very long casting time. His 3 bullets would make it in time. But suddenly, a figure suddenly flashed into Zhang Jiali's view. Pung pung pung, the 3 bullets bounced off that shameless Myriad Manifestations umbrella. With only 4% of his health left, Lord Grimm rushed in to protect Concealed Light. Who would have thought? The gathered magic burst out. Concealed Light was able to cast his spell. Zhang Jiali could feel a biting chill. It was as if the spell had penetrated through to reality. Absolute Zero. Not towards him, but Desert Dust. The Elementalist level 75 skill had completely frozen Desert Dust, who was perhaps Tyranny's hope for a reversal. This was the skill that Luoji had chosen to put on his weapon, a powerful CC skill. With no one interfering with him, using a long casting skill was naturally a suitable choice. But in the end, he had underestimated his opponents. He hadn't thought that Zhang Jiali would unexpectedly be able to notice it and even try to interrupt it. He had thought that with the enormous pressure on Zhang Jiali right now, he would be the last one to make a move against him. The moment Dazzling 100 Blossoms attacked him, his heart had turned cold. He had almost cancelled the skill, but at the last moment, Lord Grimm appeared in front of him and blocked the attacks. Luoji had seen this sort of protection from Yishu many times on the bench, and this time, he was the one being protected. Absolute Zero was unleashed. At this moment, Luoji suddenly had absolute confidence in winning because he knew that he wasn't as insignificant as he had thought. Everything he had done had influenced the battle. Hit. Due to Yishu blocking Zhang Jiali's attempt to interrupt Luoji, Han Wenqing took the brunt of the after effects. By the time he saw the Absolute Zero come out, it was too late for him to dodge. The skill created a new dimension, instantly affecting all those within its range. Desert Dust was instantly frozen, and once again, he wouldn't be able to participate in the battle for some time. The freeze time was rather limited though, since it was only a level 1 skill without Ice Elemental affinity to buff the Absolute Zero's effects, but in a situation where every second counted, it was enough to be a deciding factor. If not for this Absolute Zero, Desert Dust might be swinging his fist at Lord Grimm. But right now, all hope was lost. And Wen Yi didn't drop the ball just because he was a rookie. The no-healing period of time after life-risking strike had finally ended. He quickly seized the opportunity and cast a Holy Cure. Light Flash, a crit. Lord Grimm's health instantly shot up. It was now high enough to make the fans on Tyranny despair even if they could see Qin Muyun's -9 degrees approaching closer and closer. His sharpshooter would soon be able to provide support for Tyranny, but it was too late. Yishu had dared to body block attacks with only 4% of his health left. Now that he had received a critical Holy Cure, what wouldn't he dare to do? Target, Dazzling 100 Blossoms. Lord Grimm instantly closed in. Dazzling 100 Blossoms had only just climbed back up onto his feet, and now he was trapped inside an unspecialized combo. To make things worse, there was Dancing Rain's artillery barrage from behind, as well as attacks from the Wyvern and Thunder Eagle. In his attempts to finish off Lord Grimm, he had lost a considerable amount of health. How much longer could he last? Absolute Zero's effects ended, and Desert Dust rushed out. A crisp gunshot could be heard from the other end. Qin Muyun's -9 degrees had finally arrived. WuxiaWorldAudio.com. But Dazzling 100 Blossoms was already at his last breath. Yishu didn't even need to waste time on them anymore. Lord Grimm turned around and went directly for Desert Dust. Concealed Light's Frost Wolf immediately took his place, and along with Dancing Rain's artillery support, they finished off Dazzling 100 Blossoms. It was a 5v4, and the side with 5 had the healer. The Tyranny fans in the crowd were silent. The fans, who never became discouraged and never gave up, could already see their defeat. Happy didn't give Tyranny any opportunities to turn things around. With such control over the battle, a comeback from Tyranny would only happen if Happy made a disastrous mistake. Don't relax, Yishu reminded everyone. Only now did the crowd realize that no one had said anything in chat for a very long time. Play after play had happened one after the other, yet during this time, there had been no communication on either team between any of the players. Happy won. This was the final outcome, yet no one had expected that after it became a 5v4, the match would take another half an hour to finish. Happy had relied on their healer advantage to win, sacrificing 2 of their players to take down the remaining 4 on Tyranny. Happy clearly had control over the pace of the match, but Tyranny hadn't crumbled as fast as people had imagined. Only now did people realize how important his seemingly modest "don't relax" was against a team like Tyranny, even if they were at such a huge disadvantage. If you relaxed for even a moment, it might come back to bite you. Yishu understood Tyranny too well. He knew how the team played, and he wouldn't give Tyranny this kind of opportunity. He led Happy, keeping up the same level of determination and perseverance until the last second. It was over. Happy had officially won. With this team competition, they won this round and this best of 3. Happy would move on to the finals. The stadium was quiet. Tyranny's fans were silent. As for Happy's fans, the last half hour had been nerve-wracking to watch too. Although Happy had the clear advantage, it always felt like Tyranny would suddenly turn things around. The match didn't feel like it was over even when Happy stabilized their advantage. It wasn't until Happy finally won did they begin to regain their composure. The crowd continued to be silent even as the players exited from the player booths. Even as the two teams lined up at the center of the stage, even as the screen displayed its congratulations to the winners. Finally, reality hit. Happy had won. They had started at the bottom of the Challenger League, and now they would be moving on to the highest stage in glory. It was all like a dream. End chapter. The King's Avatar. Chapter 1573. Their Own Roads. Audio source: WuXiaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1573. Their Own Roads. Translator: Gnome Yummy. Editor: Gnome Yummy. The simple celebration that Tyranny had set up in order to celebrate their own team making it to the finals ultimately couldn't be used. On the display screen in the stadium, there was just a rather standard congratulations to the winning team. The two teams lined up in the center of the stage. Yishu, Han Wenqing, Lin Jingyan, Zhang Jiali. On this stage built from passion, these old generals met each other, knew each other, killed each other. Some felt joy, others felt sadness, others felt moved. Perhaps they couldn't be called friends, but their mutual understanding was no inferior to that between any pair of closest friends. They had the same desires and the same goal. On this stage they shed the same sweat, burned with the same passion. But it was a shame, for not everyone could achieve the results they desired. Every time, there would always be those who had to leave the stage partway through. It was over. Han Wenqing looked at this familiar stage, at the silent stadium. Another season was over. The 10th season of his professional career had come to an end. Another failure. Yes. In Han Wenqing's heart, not obtaining the championship was a failure. Glorious defeat was not a phrase that he liked. And this time, the one who had orchestrated his failure, Yishu once again, although in the past he had been called Yichu. Han Wenqing did not care at all about why he had to change his name. No matter what it was changed to, he would always immediately recognize this person on stage. This was the person who had left him the most memories over his 10-year career, from start to finish, from happiness to tragedy. And this time, this was the fourth time that Yishu had brought him and his Tyranny to bitter defeat in the playoffs. But after it was over, the first word that Han Wenqing said to Yishu was, "Congratulations. Congratulations." Congratulating victory. His own grief was the other side's joy. Competition was simply this cruel. "Thank you," Yishu answered, and the two shook hands. In the silent stadium, applause suddenly rose forth, applause that lasted for a long time. This was truly a pair of opponents worthy of respect. 10 years of glory, they continued to persevere. No matter what difficulties they faced, their pursuit of the championship never faltered. But between the two of them, only one of them could remain. This was truly an incomparably saddening fact. Tyranny's fans disliked and even hated Yishu. But in this moment, they couldn't help but think, if Yishu and Han Wenqing were on the same team, if they could lift that championship trophy together instead of constantly being at each other's throats, then how wonderful would that be? But these two players did not have such melancholy. Countless cameras were focused on these two at this moment, desperately hoping that they would have some moving interaction, but there was none. Congratulations. Thanks. Separation. Never mind a hug or anything like that. When the two of them shook hands, they hadn't even lingered very long before separating. And then the two of them each turned away, walking toward their next goal. The next person that Han Wenqing met was Sima Cheng. What about Yi Shu? He saw Lin Jingyan, Zhang Jiali. Normally, when the teams lined up to shake hands after a match, they would follow a certain order. The captain first, and then the vice-captain, continuing down from there. Happy only had Yi Shu as the captain, and no one said as the vice-captain, so they were a bit more casual in their lineup. On Tyranny's side, vice-captain Zhang Xinji's presence was very strong, but right now, Zhang Xinji hadn't followed the typical order of shaking hands with Yi Shu after Han Wenqing had. Instead, Lin Jingyan and Zhang Jiali arrived at about the same time in front of Yi Shu. An excellent match, Lin Jingyan said, shaking hands with Yi Shu first. Thank you. Yi Shu still only had this simple reply. These two in front of him now hadn't fought with him for 10 years like Han Wenqing had, but they were perhaps more tragic than Han Wenqing. The pair of Han Wenqing and Zhang Xinji had at least defeated Yi Shu in Season 4, overthrowing Excellent Era's dynasty and obtained a championship. With that, they had somewhat of a foundation, so that even if they did not manage to obtain any results for the rest of their careers, they would not be considered a total tragedy. But Lin Jingyan and Zhang Jiali, these two Season 2 debuts, had fought for only one less year than Yi Shu and Han Wenqing had. Yet they still were unable to obtain that championship. Lin Jingyan, last season was the first time he had even made it to the finals. Zhang Jiali, the synonym of unlucky and glory, 4 times in the finals, 4 times his hand brushed against that championship trophy, yet in the end he still had nothing to show for it. And this time, he hadn't even had the chance to touch that trophy. Good luck, Zhang Jiali said to Yi Shu. At this moment, he would still think of that summer 2 years ago, when he and Yi Shu, the two retired pro players, met in game. They had seemingly already said farewell to glory, but their championship hearts refused to die, and in the end they chose different paths. Yi Shu picked up a new account, trained it up through the game, recruited soldiers and bought equipment. He built his opportunity himself, built hope himself, and ultimately created a team. And Zhang Jiali, he chose an easier and more direct road. He returned and chose to join Tyranny, creating an incomparably beautiful roster with Han Wenqing, Lin Jingyan, and Zhang Xinji. Zhang Jiali wouldn't forget that Yi Shu, too, had given him an invitation at that time. If he had agreed, he would be a member of Happy right now. But Zhang Jiali wouldn't deny, either, that at that time he didn't look favorably upon Yi Shu's starting over from scratch. At the time, he'd thought, Yi Shu is someone who already holds 3 whole championships, maybe he would attach more importance to this more difficult path. But Zhang Jiali himself? All he wanted was to have a single championship trophy. No matter the method, he hoped that his professional career wouldn't have this blank space. The two walked their own paths in the pursuit of victory. Yi Shu and his Happy defeated Excellent Era in the Challenger League. Zhang Jiali and Tyranny together lost last year's finals to Samsara. Again. The two continued their pursuit. Yi Shu broke through the Challenger League and arrived at the Pro Alliance boldly carrying his Happy toward the championship. Zhang Jiali, with his Tyranny teammates, once again mounted a charge against the championship. In the end, the two teams met outside the doors to the finals, and in the end, Yi Shu and his Happy won, while Zhang Jiali and Tyranny together fell at the doorway. Did he regret it? Did he regret rejecting Yi Shu's invitation to join Happy? No, he didn't. If it were still the Zhang Jiali of 2 years past, after directly falling to Happy, he would probably be extremely upset about his decision. But the Zhang Jiali of today was not. He had walked together with Tyranny for 2 seasons now, had fought and killed together with his teammates for 2 years now. He still prioritized results, but he now deeply appreciated the process. These 2 years, he had experienced much, and his mentality had changed a lot as well. Last season they'd had the chance to obtain a championship. This season, Happy had only taken the chance that they'd had last season. Even if Happy did ultimately manage to win the championship, Zhang Jiali would not have any regrets because of that. This Happy was this kind of happy, and if he were there, it would be a different Happy. Even if this kind of Happy could win the championship, that didn't mean that a Happy with him could also win. There were no absolutes when it came to victory and defeat on the professional stage, and these kinds of regrets were completely unnecessary. This was what Zhang Jiali had learned over these past 2 years. There were many roads to the championship. Yishu had chosen one, he had chosen another. The road that Yishu had chosen was filled with difficulties, so he hadn't thought it would end well. WuxiaWorldAudio.com. In his own choice. He might have thought before that his choice was a shortcut, but now he understood that this absolutely wasn't the case. There were no shortcuts to the championship. Those who thought that obtained top-level players and top-level characters was enough to easily take the championship were far underestimating glory and underestimating the nature of competition. Zhang Jiali didn't dare underestimate that, and so he would not regret his own choice. Refusing Yishu's invitation, joining Tyranny instead of returning to 100 Blossoms, he regretted none of it. Now, he gave his congratulations to the victor. He still need to rely on himself to walk his own road. Just like this, the 4 generals completed their post-match greetings. Simple, without any unnecessary words, just exchanging those plain, almost boring phrases. But everyone who watched this scene already felt their hearts tightening. Even if it was so simple, even if it was just these boring phrases, would they have the chance to ever hear this again? The 4 of them were already at the final stages of their careers. Would they ever have this kind of chance again, to stand on stage and exchange congratulations and thanks? Good luck, thank you. To these people now, just these kinds of phrases were already such a luxury. Did they still have it tomorrow? How many more tomorrows did they have? Everyone was left with only restlessness in their hearts. An extremely interesting performance. Quote, after the 3 old generals, Tyranny's vice-captain finally arrived before Yishu. You too, said Yishu. This team is very strong. Zhang Xinji's gaze slid toward the other members of Happy standing behind Yishu. Everyone has an area where they can't be overlooked. Yishu smiled. He knew that Zhang Xinji could see much more than most other people. Happy was able to defeat Tyranny not because of one person or one thrilling moment. Their team's operation was thorough and outstanding. In that thrilling battle to reverse the disadvantage, Happy hadn't communicated in the chat at all. This was the greatest proof. This showed that their teamwork was well trained. This showed that they had a shared awareness in that kind of situation, that they could cooperate, pushing themselves and the team in the direction of victory. Keep working hard, Zhang Xinji said. You too, Yishu said. Zhang Xinji nodded. He wasn't someone who would say insincere polite words. Happy still had areas to improve, and their Tyranny did as well. Even though he had brought Yishu to a downfall as soon as he joined the alliance, he had never underestimated him. When it came to the strategic system of Happy, the team that Yishu had pulled together, there was just too much to learn from and analyze. The contents of the Glory textbook were constantly updating, constantly evolving, and Chapter The King's Avatar, Chapter 1574 Real Analysis, Audio Source, WuxiaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1574 Real Analysis. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Han Wenqing, Lin Jingyan, Zhang Jiale, Zhang Xinji. Tyranny appeared invincible because of these 4, but Tyranny wasn't only just these 4.
Song Qiang and Qin Muyun had played in this round's team competition. By the time Qin Muyun joined the battle, Happy already held the upper hand. He didn't lose his fighting spirit, though. He tried his best to turn things around, contributing greatly towards extending the intense battle by another half an hour. As for Song Qiang, he had been the team's last hope in the group arena, but in the end, he failed to make a comeback. He had played in the team competition as well, playing until the last moment, but all that he received was another bitter defeat. Why? Song Qiang was trying his hardest not to cry, but tears were already racing down his cheeks. You seniors were all working so hard, but why? Why did we still? Song Qiang couldn't accept this. He didn't understand. He himself was still young and had a future, and as a man of tyranny, he wouldn't start crying uncontrollably just because of a single defeat. However, even if he had the future, what about his teammates, who were on the verge of retirement? Their youthful days were over, and they no longer had any opportunities to waste. The amount of time that they could still remain on the glory stage could be counted on one hand. It was because of this that they practiced no less than anyone else. Even at their final moments, they wouldn't give up on even the slightest chance of improving themselves. Song Qiang had seen their efforts with his own eyes. They treasured every chance they had, but in the end, why did opportunity never gaze upon him? Their efforts, their sweat, their everything, they had sacrificed it all, yet all they got in exchange was defeat. Why? Song Qiang didn't know who he was asking. Qin Muyun patted his shoulders to comfort him. Zhang Xinji was ready to bring him away when he heard Yi Zhu say calmly, "Effort alone can't win you everything. Don't be so conceited." Conceited? How was Song Qiang being conceited? He couldn't help but feel stunned at that word. In terms of effort, do you think our Happy would lose to you? No, not Happy, and not any team. Yi Zhu said. On this glory stage, effort is the last thing you should brag about, because it's a given. It's something everyone will put in. It's the lowest and smallest thing. Recognize this and keep climbing. Keep working hard. As Yi Zhu said this, he shook hands with Tyranny's sixth player, Qin Muyun, and then waved to the crowd, even if this was Tyranny's home stadium, even if this place was filled with glory fans who hated him. Applause came, but it was rather reserved. Although there were people who were moved by Yi Zhu's words, their hatred stood strong. Today's match was another addition to the list. The crowd didn't boo, instead giving Yi Zhu a bit of applause. It showed just how moving Yi Zhu's words were today. The referee announced Team Happy's victory. This time, the fans in the away team seats gave thunderous cheers, looking more like winners than before. The applause from Tyranny's fans wasn't too soft either, but their applause wasn't for the winners but the losers, Tyranny. Although their applause hid their disappointment, they had to tell their team that even in defeat, Tyranny would always be heroes in their heart. The two teams entered the stadium's passageway. Neither team said anything as they walked to their prep rooms. The two teams were required to participate in the following press conference. The order wouldn't be by home and away team, but by losing and winning team. The first to go up was Team Tyranny. Their loss didn't only symbolize the end of this round, but the end of this set in this season. The questions that Tyranny would need to face wouldn't be limited to just today's match. Han Wenqing, Zhang Xinji, Lin Jingyan, Zhang Jiale. These four went out for the press conference. Their gathering ignited sparks among the Glory community. Just the names alone were enough to spark interest from Glory fans. But after last year's defeat, they had lost again. Everyone knew the weakness in this exciting lineup. Perhaps it was because of this weakness that such a luxurious team could be formed. But they had failed 2 seasons in a row. This luxurious lineup failed to meet their fans' expectations, as well as their own. What would they do next? Compared to the contents of today's match, the future of Tyranny was a more important topic. Questions need to be asked in sequence though, especially when facing such an intimidating group of stars, who deserved respect. No reporter planned on making it hard for them. Tyranny's loss against Happy is regrettable. The first reporter to speak would often start off with this sort of opening remark before moving on to the next logical step. How do you think your opponents played today? Extremely well. Quote, as the captain, Han Wenking answered back, giving a reply that every reporter hated. Luckily for the reporters, he turned his head to the side and added, how about we have Shinji give a more detailed explanation? Of course, of course. Quote, no one would object to that. Zhang Shinji always said things as they were. Questions asking about how the opponents did were the easiest to brush off, but if Zhang Shinji was answering it, that wouldn't be the case. Group Arena or Team Competition? Quote, after Zhang Shinji received the question, he immediately asked for clarification. Team Competition, the reporters replied. The Team Competition had elements of teamwork and individual play, so there were more things to talk about than the Group Arena. For the Team Competition, we confirmed after the match that the spawn point was determined randomly, right? Zhang Shinji began, showing how strict and serious he was with the game. As soon as the match ended, he immediately made it clear what doubts he had. Yeah, the reporters nodded their heads in agreement. Zhang Shinji nodded his head and pondered for a moment. Then, starting from this point, he summarized what happened in the Team Competition before cautiously saying, there are many things that we can learn from Happy in today's Team Competition. WuxRWorldAudio.com. Because of the random spawn locations, Happy's Tang Rou ended up coming across the five of us alone. This was an extremely bad situation for her. Tang Rou quickly came to a decision, while we hesitated slightly. This was all because neither of us nor Happy knew about the random spawn locations. On the surface, Happy was at a disadvantage. However, because of our hesitation, Happy was able to seize the initiative. They had Tang Rou try and bait us into chasing after her. Later on, by using the surrounding terrain, they were able to safely set up ambush locations to wear us down. Zhang Shinji replied to the reporter's question in detail. The reporter had simply asked about Happy's performance, so that's what he talked about. He didn't say anything regarding how Tyranny played, let alone criticism. Even so, the reporters didn't feel that it was boring because of how honest Zhang Shinji was. From his words, they could hear things that they might have missed, trying to analyze it themselves. Although everyone was more concerned with Tyranny's future, today's match had indeed been spectacular, especially Yi Xiu's life-risking strike. Everyone wanted to hear about Tyranny's opinion on it. The reporters hadn't asked about it specifically, but because it was an important part of the match, perhaps even the climax of it, Zhang Shinji naturally talking about it in more detail when he got there. Luoji coming out into play can already be considered a setup. Because of the first game in our best of three, Luoji's presence made us mindful of the terrain. Happy's ambush at the canyon exit wasn't successful. It could be said that Happy had relied on Yi Xiu's outstanding playing to stabilize the situation. At this point, Happy was in a defensive position, but they had a clear retreat path. Their destination was the center of the map, the Seven Color Springs. We had yet to explore this area. We had thought that this destination was the turning point that Happy was waiting for, but it turned out that our judgment was incorrect. Zhang Shinji didn't cover up his mistake, directly calling it out. Happy had been waiting for an opportunity. This opportunity wasn't the Seven Color Springs, but rather us thinking that the Seven Color Springs was the turning point. Once we made this prediction, the most effective method to eliminate this possibility was to win before the Seven Color Springs was reached. Starting from when we killed Fang Rui's Boundless Sea, we had the lead in the initiative. As a result, we adopted a more aggressive posture. And this was the opportunity that Happy was waiting for. Their plan had begun the moment Fang Rui was killed. They were being pressured by us, but by creating a certain image of themselves, it gave them space to bounce back. Afterwards, they need to wait for us to increase our aggression to lure us into bringing out our healer. This is a strategy. I realized it after the match. During this course of events, there had been no communication within Happy. It was all an enormous and complex setup. If it had been devised on the spot, there would definitely have been communication. Thus, this is a strategy that Happy has practiced before. At some point, everyone had received the signal to carry out this strategy. For the switch to work, the Spirit Cat must have been summoned by Lord Grimm, and none of us had noticed it. This was extremely critical because Luoji was a very important part of this strategy. Lord Grimm's Spirit Cat had to be hidden among concealed light summons, and the possibility of an Elemental Beast King formation was a huge bait. If we had known that the Spirit Cat was Lord Grimm's, we wouldn't have worried about it as much, and Lin Jingyan would not have been lured over by Luoji. Even if he had started casting Elemental Beast King formation, since the Spirit Cat wasn't concealed lights, it would not have worked. But unfortunately, we had been tricked, beginning with us not knowing that the Spirit Cat was Lord Grimm's. End chapter.